So it was very much my husband that gave me the idea and said, "You'd be great at this. It'd be a cool business. I can help you." And I said immediately, "Absolutely not. I could never do anything like that. I'm way too shy." And then thinking, but you know what? Why not?
Live from one of the biggest card shows in the world with one of the biggest names in the sports card industry today. This is a very special interview for me, someone I was very fortunate enough to actually meet at this very show a few years ago in Atlantic City. Today, we sit down with Mama Breaks, Stephanie Garcia. Stephanie, welcome to the podcast.
Finally. No, I'm kidding. It's an honor to be on this. I think we were in Ohio with you when you were about to start this. I think before you released episode 1.
Yep.
So it's been almost a year now, and it's exciting to see how much it's grown. And oh my goodness, just hearing those words come out of your mouth right now, and knowing that I met you here 4 years ago, and I specifically wanted to come to meet you because your story inspired me to pursue what I'm doing today is kind of insane. Kind of a full circle moment.
Yeah, it's crazy looking back on our friendship and when it started. I remember that moment very well. I know we've told that story a few times this weekend, but Atlantic City National, I think it was 2022.
Yes.
And we were at a Card Talk event, partnership with eBay Live. It's funny to know that you're on eBay. Are you on eBay Live?
Yeah.
Yeah, so on eBay Live, and we were at an event, Card Talk, eBay Live partnership, and you had told Tyler and Lou you wanted to meet. We had never met before. I had heard your story online. We got to connect. We've hit it off. Like, we've been really good friends since. But again, really that crazy full circle moment for both of us, as like we were at an eBay Live Card Talk event. We had never met, and now we sit here, good friends, 3 years later, 4 years later, whatever it is, at an eBay Live event. You're on eBay Live. Talk to me. How did you get right here?
Oh, well, that trip to the National for me was, I was on many missions, right? To meet you, to meet people that I've inspired, to ask more questions. I had just quit teaching.
At that time?
At that moment, like maybe a few weeks or a month before, because it was in August, that was my last year teaching, and I really had no set plan in what I was going to do. And I think a lot of my journey since then is kind of figuring out things as I've gone and tried different things and tried to really, yeah, it's insane to think that I came to the National 4 years ago, quitting teaching, not really knowing exactly what I was going to pursue. At that moment, I didn't really think that I was going to do breaking full time or as a business.
Yep.
And I think coming to the National and meeting everyone really set me on the path that I am now. Really set me on the path that I am on now. And it's been a roller coaster since then. I mean, at that point in time, I had a good following, enough for you to know who I was, apparently. And I was breaking on the weekends while I was teaching. I was kind of just getting boxes on OfferUp and buying them on eBay and buying them at shows and breaking on the weekends. And I was getting a lot of partnership and sponsorships from eBay at the time. So I think at that point, eBay had sent me to a couple of card shows to do content.
Yep.
And I had content that I was only doing on my phone. And I look back at that content now, and it was not very good. But I was doing it. And when I think about my content then and what I was doing then, I'm really proud of where we are now and everyone who's helped me along the way. So I think really focus on people and all that, yeah.
Lot to unpack there. And again, I think what's going to be so fun about this is like you and I are such good friends outside of here. So I know a little bit more about your story and who you are as a person. So I'm excited for some of that to come out on this, because I obviously think the world of you as a human. And I think your story is incredible. So I'm excited to get there. Walk me back a little bit more, though.
Okay.
When did you get into cards? And then how did you get into breaking before we got into like content and the national? Like where were the early days like for Stephanie?
Well, as a kid, I loved Pokemon. Pokemon was where I started my love for cards. I grew up in South Central Los Angeles, and there weren't many. I didn't even know that card shops existed when I was a kid,
Yep.
let alone big card shows like this. And Pokemon was what was hot, and I was watching on TV after school, and kids were bringing cards to school, and you go and you ask your parents for some. I remember we would take a bus to a Toys R Us to get packs of Pokemon cards, and I started, collecting them with my cousins and putting them in binders. And we actually created our own binders with staples to put the cards in, and that was kind of my first taste of what it was to interact with cards, to buy and trade cards, to collect them. And growing up, I was always really into sports. I loved playing soccer, I loved playing baseball, and it wasn't until I met my stepdad when I was 9 years old, and he took me to my first baseball game, and I fell in love with baseball. And in high school, I found cards again. I think that process happened for a lot of people where Pokemon was something you did as a kid
Yep.
and you kind of grew out of it. When I was more into baseball in high school, I started picking up cards again, saying, okay, I used to do Pokemon cards, now I'm doing baseball cards, and slowly collect them. But again, growing up in inner city Los Angeles and being, Mexican American, my family to this day doesn't really understand what I do
Yep.
and what all of this is, because it's a very much a culture shock for them,
Yeah.
as
Sure.
it was for me in a lot of ways.
Yep.
And just to fast forward from there, I was teaching from home during COVID, and I was living in around the Chino Hills area at the time. So the Ball brothers were huge.
Yep.
LaMelo Ball was the biggest thing in our around where we live locally, and I found out that his rookie cards were going for crazy amounts, and I was like, oh wait, I remember sports cards. Sports cards are pretty cool,
Yep.
and I started looking into that, and again, this connection that I had with my stepdad, and sports. It was around like his birthday, I think, and I was like, okay, I'll buy my dad some cards for his birthday, and I'll get back into cards a little bit. I started looking at Dodger stuff, and I bought him some cards on eBay. I had a really great experience with a seller on there. I probably overpaid. I didn't know how to look at comps or anything like that.
Yep.
But I think he knew I overpaid because he sent me a bunch of free stuff too. Because I wrote a message to him saying, hey, thanks so much for accepting my offer. These are going to be for my stepdad and the whole thing. So I think that had a lot to do with my experience and thinking like, this is really cool. This is like a community. This is a person who I don't know, who I just shared something intimate with, and kind of provided me like this free stuff. And I was very hooked on that. I was very, again, very excited to get back into collecting something that I love, which is baseball. So I started looking for it on social media, and I could find barely any content.
Yep.
Almost no content on TikTok at that point for
Yep.
cards. And more so on Instagram, but still very little. And that's where I found out what breaking was. And I just remember going into Instagram lives and being amazed at what was happening in front of me and thinking like, what is going on? Excel sheets and numbers and Venmo and PayPal and people paying and getting boxes ripped open for them live, and people going crazy for crazy hits and getting excited. So I very much was excited to be a part of that, started buying into breaks, and I just fell in love with it. I mean, I fell in love with the people and the community.
So as you fall in love with it, you get on social, you start seeing content. When did you really decide like, maybe I'm gonna do this. Maybe I want to try a break? Because like you said, it wasn't a thing when you were younger. You come back in, LaMelo Ball, rookies are crazy. You see some breaks. What made you say like, all right, let me try this? And like, what was that process like of your first break?
So I think it very much was involving my husband in it,
Yep.
because it became something that he recognized I was doing a lot. So I remember being, in bed at night, and typically when we were reading, instead I'm on the phone telling him, look at this card I just pulled. And he's just fascinated, I think. Now looking back, looking back at it, I think he was more fascinated with how exciting it was for me and how excited I was about it. It was very much my husband you know, getting involved in something that he knew nothing about and thought was crazy and supporting me on it. And he's the one that had the idea and pushed me and said, "You would be really great at this." Because I was a teacher,
Yep.
very used to facilitating a room, very used to having fun with my students. And I do, a lot of the things I do on stream today are things that I did with my students, especially during COVID because it was all online.
Yep.
So it was very much my husband that gave me the idea and said, "You'd be great at this. It'd be a cool business. I can help you." And I said immediately, "Absolutely not. I could never do anything like that. I'm way too shy." And then thinking, but you know what? Why not? If I could get through teaching online, which is, I think, the biggest hurdle I had to get through. I remember the first week that we were closed down and I had to do a class online. I was sick to my stomach. I did not show my face on camera. I was like,
That's crazy.
I'm used to being a teacher and teaching in front of a class of people and doing presentations, but I don't know why, but the fact that I had to show my face over a camera and have absolutely no one looking back at me and not being able to see my kids' faces,
Yep.
not being able to like actually teach by seeing them was so nerve-wracking for me. And I think if I hadn't gone through that hurdle first, I wouldn't have been able to really have the courage to start creating content and breaking. And once I did start creating content, was specifically because I didn't see it enough. And I thought there was a need and I thought it was super fun.
Yep.
And I told myself if I got like 1,000 followers on Instagram, I guess I'll try to do a break. And that was it.
Do you remember your first break? What
Like
was
it
it?
was yesterday.
Do you remember what it was?
It was, I want to say it was like 10 2020 select mega football megas.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was a random
Wow.
divisional on Instagram Live. I did it on my dining room table with a gray mouse pad and my curtains as the background.
That's classic setup. Now, so you get into breaking, you get into content, like you're starting this out. Was there a moment for you as you're progressing where you're like, okay, maybe this is for me. Maybe I'm gonna put teaching on the back burner. Was there like a light bulb moment where you're like, this, I want to do this?
I just think it really was the support from the community and the support from companies like eBay that really gave me the confidence to believe that I could do something like this as a career and actually build a business around it. I when I started doing breaks and more content, I started getting these opportunities from eBay and getting offered to get sent to shows that I really started believing that this is something that I can do. And for a long time, not I wouldn't say a long time, for about a year, I tried to do it all. So I was teaching, I was breaking, I was doing content for eBay, I was going to shows, all while I had two small kids. And there was a point where I'm like, okay, at this point in time, something has to give.
Yep.
It's either I decide to continue teaching and focus on being a mom, still the mom part has to happen, right? Or give up teaching, try to build the business and still have time to be mom, because at that point it was way too much. Yeah.
And I remember some of these conversations just from our friendship, but tell me a little bit about what that process was like about making that decision, making that leap, right? You've mentioned your husband a couple times,
Yes.
obviously with the travel, the content, and becoming, a personality, influencer, whatever you want to call it in the space. That comes with a lot of, a lot of responsibility, a lot of time away. What has that been like, having someone in your corner that, makes that, that transition a lot easier?
He's been everything having to do with this. I wouldn't have done it, A, without his blessing, and B, without him always being there and supporting me in every way. I'm getting super emotional because you got me at a time where I've been away from home for a few days.
Yeah.
And he's home and I worry about nothing. The kids are taken care of, and not only that, let's just talk about how hard it is to build a business from scratch.
Sure.
No investors, no really money to start. I was a teacher Not a lot of money to start this business with, and it was all him, you know, financially supported me for the first 2 to 3 years of this, absolutely. In coming to all these events and traveling as much as we do, always being supportive when I come back and super tired and just in a lot of ways also helping me navigate decisions. I don't make decisions lightly because I always involve him in them as well. And he's just the way he is and very logical. And I think he's helped me make a lot of great decisions so far too. And he's just been my number one fan.
Yeah.
I hear him talk about me to our family members, and he very much helps me explain what I'm doing to my family. And anybody that does this knows how hard that is to navigate as well. And
Yeah, sure.
just always having someone in my corner, always having my husband has been, if not the biggest reason for my success today.
I know we've shared a lot of conversations about that. I mean, I appreciate you being so open about it. Like, again, I know we've had a lot of conversations over the years about that, and how helpful it is to have that person in your corner, right? I talk a lot about my wife publicly, like like you said. I think the other piece of that is like somebody that can like talk about you in that light, because it's hard, right? Like you said, you're building a business from scratch. Like, we've both done it the same way. Like, I didn't have parents, I didn't have loans, I didn't have, like, I've built this in time. And when you're doing that and when you take that leap, I mean, you're giving up guaranteed income, you're giving up retirement, you're giving up safety, you're giving up a lot of things. And to have somebody in your corner that understands why you're doing it and like that you believe in yourself, is instrumental. Like, I would not be here today if it wasn't for my wife. I know that for sure. But I also know as you as a person, and that's why I appreciate you. I'm sorry to make you emotional. I just know that is you to a core. And again, that's one of the things I love so much about you, is just like your authenticity. And I think that's one of the things, and I would love to hear more from your side, but I can tell you as a fan and as a friend, I think authenticity is one of the things that helps in the content space. In a world where, clickbait and titles and everything like help with views, I think the thing I've always found so fascinating about you as a person is like just you're authentic to who you are. You're the same person on camera as you are off camera. You agree, disagree that matters in content?
Absolutely. And it's very, I think, surprising for me to hear that you think I'm the same on camera as I am in person, because I think it's really hard. I think it's really hard to be yourself on camera. I think I've grown to be more comfortable with that over time, because what happens is, being yourself, you're being vulnerable. Inviting people into your life and explaining these kind of things, and kind of letting people into your quirks and the weird things that you think are funny, and the weird things that you like. You open yourself up to judgment. You open yourself up to, I think very many times people do try to hide who they are, because if somebody criticizes someone that you're trying to be like, it's like they're not criticizing you at all.
Sure.
But if you're out there and you're being yourself and you're showing who you are, and somebody criticizes you, which is going to be inevitable in what we do, we both experience it
Oh yeah.
all the time. It's just a part of this. It's very hurtful. It could get very emotional. But I think the more that you practice it, the more you realize that that's how you get the real connections with people, though.
Sure.
That's how people truly, like you said, really connect with who you are. And at the end of the day, that's what makes you feel more excited to continue to go out and do it and have fun with it and be who you are. I see that so much in you too, in your content. And I've actually had this conversation with my team, is that I get sometimes way too into, I should be saying this and I should be doing that and I should be more this on camera, because maybe people might think I'm too calm and too monotone. But you are a perfect example of just being completely yourself, so you're not pretending, and you're enjoying it more, and people see it and people enjoy it more. That's it.
Agreed. 100%. I don't think I could say anything different. Now take me back I want to know a little bit more about your story, your journey from uh, Instagram Live to now Fanatics and eBay. What has that been like growing on those two platforms, and taking it from like a curtains 10 box select mega break to you rep a lot of product, you're a massive breaker, you've built a really big business from scratch. What is the breaking side of the business like? How has that transitioned for you?
It's a wild story. I don't know if I could even begin to give you points. I think the most important thing for me is that I've always asked questions. I've always been very curious and eager to learn.
Yeah.
And I can just tell you loads and loads of people that I've learned different things from, and that's made all the difference because the person I was as a businesswoman when I first started, I'm a completely different person today. And I believe if I'm doing things the right way, I will be completely different next year and the year after and the year after. I typically use the national as a way to anchor myself and say, when I get back home, I'm going to put into effect everything that I've learned now. This my journey here is to come and learn from people and ask questions and just continue growing. So it's a lot to even think about, right? There's so much that goes into breaking, but there's so much that goes into building any business.
Sure.
I think you just can't be you can't be afraid to ask for help. You can't be afraid to ask questions. You have to really know in your heart that as much as you feel at some point that you think you know everything and you're an expert, there's so much more to learn
Sure.
always. And I think when we get to a position like this, like you and I, it's kind of easy to get there sometimes and think, oh yeah, no one knows more about Star Wars breaking than me. But absolutely not. There's always so much to learn.
Well, that was going to be my next question. Is you started with football, and I think some of some of our our friendly conversations over the years is like, I don't see you as like a football person.
Yeah, no.
Now you're a massive breaker for Star Wars.
Yeah.
You go all out for it. I've seen it. We've had conversations about it. Why Star Wars? Like, let's start there. Why Star Wars?
I love football. I really do. That's just not something that I had time for a lot lately. Like, I don't watch it as much. I didn't grow up watching football, but I very much was just really into football at the time. I think I started watching football like in, I don't know, maybe 4 years prior because I was doing like fantasy at work and things like that. So sports cards is what really got me into this. It's what really got me hooked. I loved baseball growing up too. At that moment, the Topps like baseball, Chrome baseball stuff was really hard to break. Topps Chrome baseball was not what it is today. It's a completely different product, completely different thing. Not as much not as much made for breaking, I would say. So I definitely tried to do that at the beginning, and it wasn't what it is today. Football was what was hot, and I enjoyed it, and I loved it. I loved watching it. So that's where I started. I did a little bit of basketball as well. I enjoy basketball. But Star Wars, oh my goodness. Again, it's just like I get so fascinated and so surprised that they had Star Wars cards. I grew up loving Star Wars. It's been something that I guess, it's been my nerd thing that I've always been into, and kind of connecting everything I love about sports cards. And now I can do it with Star Wars. I was hooked. And I really, if I could put it on one thing, is I saw Rich Layton doing it at Layton Sports Cards. I started joining breaks and I started saying, I think I'm having more fun than I was having with sports cards.
Yep.
I did. I think in a lot of ways it's less about buying, selling, and trading, and more about actually collecting what you really love.
Yeah.
You could see it in the market, right? It's way more volatile. It's not really made for this buy, sell, trade thing that we do with sports cards. I enjoyed it. I thought the breaking of it was fun, and that's where I initially decided to only do it one day a week and see what happened. So I picked like a Friday for 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And I said I'm gonna break Star Wars every single Friday, no matter what. And this is what it turned into.
Now, I'm assuming that's not the case. You break it plenty more.
What was that?
I said, sorry, it's a little loud in here. I said, I'm assuming now it's no longer Fridays only. It's a lot more consistently.
Oh, I still do it every Friday.
Do you do it more than Friday?
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes, yes. Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
what I'm saying. It's like,
No, but I try to keep that tradition as much as I can. But like with releases and stuff,
sure.
it changes. But no, we're the number one Star Wars breaker, for sure.
Yeah, every time I feel like you're live, I see you. It is Star Wars. Now, you mentioned earlier, like you leave the National, you take away a lot, you're super motivated. I just know that about you as a person. We've had Fanatics Fest, we've had the National, or at the National. Those have both taken place in the last 6 weeks. What have you, as a content creator, as an entrepreneur, as a businesswoman, what have you taken away from some of these shows that you're excited to like really take home with you for the second half of 2025 and beyond?
I think it's a great thing that I think it's a big reason why the hobby is so growing so much right now. I think you get a show like Fanatics Fest that's really geared towards the new collector,
Yep,
right?
yep.
But or sports fans
There you go.
and trying to turn them into collectors. So I think like a Fanatics Fest for me personally, I went last year and I went again this year and I feel like I saw it all. I feel like it's okay, this is awesome. Um but I think keep going back to see the cards. Does that make sense?
Yep.
That's kind of like what I've been thinking about a lot lately. I was at Fanatics Fest and I didn't get to do cards as much, and I was really sad about that. So, but having the Nationals close immediately after,
Yep.
I think it's a perfect segue, right? So I think ideally you go to Fanatics Fest as a sports fan for the first time, and for the first time you're minusculely exposed to cards.
Yeah.
And you start going, what's this? David Adams has a huge, beautiful booth. Maybe you see boxes of cards for the first time, and they look so cool. I remember the first time, because I did it during COVID, right? The first time I saw a sealed box of wax, I was like, why are these things so small? They look huge on camera, right? And then you're really seeing like these are little things that people love to collect and they're super valuable and it's so fascinating and interesting. And then maybe you do walk around and you really don't know what's going on.
Yep.
And then maybe you go next year and you do that again and you learn a little bit more about cards. And the National is when you're ready to go all in. This is for the seasoned collector, right? This
Yeah.
is for the collector who loves cards so much and has spent all year or even years and finally made it to like the mecca of cards. This is what the National is.
Yep.
And I will forever love and enjoy coming here, just getting lost and looking at cards for hours and seeing people that I interact with throughout the year, either in my lives, that I've done deals with, that I've been inspired by, that I've learned so much from. Like we're all here in one place. And what I take away from it is I should probably start setting up here. Looks like I'm looking at the booths and stuff and thinking I really should figure out how to be here and be a part of that, because I think when you set up at a National, you're in many, many ways helping people learn about what we do.
Yep.
And establishing education and all the amazing things that you do,
Yeah, I think you couldn't have said it any better. Where it's like, Fanatics Fest is like cards meets culture and sports all in one, and I think Topps and Fanatics do a great job of bringing all of those things together under one roof. I said it in one of my vlogs, that we did at the Fanatics Fest, but I believe Fanatics Fest is Topps' way to 10x the hobby. I believe it's where you can intro sports fans and culture to the hobby.
Yes.
And then I think the National is a great segue to, oh, I've learned about cards. Oh, wow, this is cards. And you understand and you get to see firsthand how big it really is. And then it opens up into a whole different world. But I think you said it, we've talked before where it's, you mentioned you're like, I should be setting up here. I think, especially back to back, but leaving the National, I look around and I'm like, one, the market is in a good spot. It seems very healthy and it seems very, very much in a good spot where I had Mike Mahan on here recently, and we talked, and you know, they believe this is early for the industry. And if this is early,
That's
I
insane.
leave this place super motivated that I'm like, man, I know we have this conversation on the phone because I've shared these phone calls with you, but it's like, I'm not doing enough. We
Oh
got
yeah,
we got to figure something out. Like,
I'm
if
never
this thing
doing
is gonna
enough.
10x, we got a long way to go. We got to
Oh
work.
my
I got to work
gosh.
harder. I got to figure something out because it's
Absolutely.
like, we have 2 booths here. I've got the breaker spot where we're interviewing. We've got a booth on the show floor, and I see Jeff Wilson's his hanging sign rotates and lights up. I need one of those. That's the nicest thing
Yours
I've
is
ever
pretty
seen.
nice too.
And you see some of these shout out to Hit Seekers. They've got a card stand right here where you can make it like prints a downtown type card for you. That's incredible. And you just see all the technology, you see all these people, you see where it's going, and I leave this place and I'm like, time to level it up because this is
Humbling.
yeah, this is gonna be a fun ride.
Oh yeah, a lot of that, but it's a good kick in the ass.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've told myself is like I'm gonna go back home and just put my head down. This is gonna be a crazy,
Yeah.
crazy year.
So as we wrap it up, I know you've got a lot of things to do. You're super busy, and I'm super grateful for your time this week. But I think that's a great question to end it on. You're like, I'm going to go home. I'm going to put my head down. It's going to be a crazy year. Well, you've done so much in such a short period of time. You've done it the right way. I admire you so much as a friend, as a entrepreneur. But what is next for Stephanie? What is next for Mama Breaks? What is coming in 2025 and beyond?
Number one is figuring that out, like really trying to figure that out because I think coming here, you're exposed to so much, right? Having a card shop, doing repacks, doing breaking. I think every one of us that's building a business goes through all of that. Like there's so many lanes that
Yep.
you can get into. How many is too much?
Yep.
And then how do you navigate all that? Do you choose one first and go there? Do you choose what you enjoy doing the most or what you can with the team that you have? And I think a lot of figuring out is what I have to do in the short term. That, but a lot of also just continuing to build my team. I think is what I really need to focus on and continue to figure out the impact that I want to make and how I should choose steps to do that. I think I have a lot of thinking to do is what I need to do. I don't have a direct answer
Yeah.
for what's next other than pulling a lot of great cards for a lot of amazing people.
Well, if there's one thing I know about you, you're very calculated and you'll do it the right way. But I do have one more final question. Knowing what you know now, if you were starting over in cards today, what piece of advice would you give yourself?
That's such a good question. Action is everything. You are going to doubt yourself so much, and you're not alone in that. You're not. Every single one of us has gone through it and then some. So always remember you're not alone in your thoughts. You're not alone in feeling inadequate. You're not alone in feeling like you don't know anything. If anything, that's a good thing. Keep that. Don't let it go. Don't be afraid to ask questions and always take action. Action is the best medicine for all of that. Get up and do something about it every day, period.
It is so funny. Again, I appreciate this time so much because I remember that Stephanie from 3 years ago, and just seeing this Stephanie now is it's been a lot of fun watching you grow. It's been really, really special, and you're doing some amazing things. So thank you so much for the time and for coming on. I look forward to the next episode a year from now when we can sit here and see what else
Maybe at my
you've
booth next
built.
time.
Even better. I look
Okay.
forward to it. Thank you,
Now I
Steph.
gotta hold myself accountable. Okay.
Well, I look forward to it one day.
I really appreciate the kind words, Ryan, as always. I'm so honored to be here. And like I said, if I told myself on my first national that I was gonna be sitting next to you and you were gonna be saying with one of the biggest breakers in the industry is insane to me. It's wild. I didn't necessarily set out to do that, and it's just forever grateful and thank you for the inspiration always.
Appreciate you.